and of course everyone else. Before I start though, I would like to commend the Weston fisher folk for keeping up this tradition and this week, and for recognizing the need to honor those who are part of the fisher folk community here. And I commend, of course, those, the Stephen Forts, the Charleston Thomases, all who participate in this activity, Derwin Hines, and who keep up this tradition and who keep this industry alive in this part of Barbados and, of course, nationally on the whole. We'd like to, of course, commend those who make this event possible in other ways as well. Mrs. Rhonda Bryan, for instance, Hudson Bryan, who really and truly has done yeoman's service to this parish and this community, not only in terms of fisher folk, but in terms of the community service, training, the ambassadors now, parish ambassadors who are here. I think both last year's and this year's are here. And this is what we need to do in terms of Barbadian people. We need more volunteers serving our communities. And Rhonda is an example of that. Be the government, bureaucracy can't do everything. And one of the ways that we need to move forward as a country is for people, especially our younger people, to understand that we have to have a commitment to the development of the country. And part of that commitment is in voluntary activity to the communities in which you come from, in which you live, in which you have gone to school, in which your family resides. And this service must be without the need for payment. We can't be paid for everything. Universities and businesses and employers in many cases look to see what voluntary activity you have done in terms of accepting you into the employment or university. And this can give you the edge. If there are two people who are of equal merit, they would then look to see who has done the voluntary community service to separate the two, to give them the job or the place in the university or whatever. And, if it were my way, for example, I'm only Shadow Minister of Education, but if it was my way, every child of school age would have to be involved in a club, an association, an extracurricular activity, either at school or within their community. And this would have to be compulsory in terms of not only benefiting the community, but building their character as an individual. And that would have to be part of your certification in leaving school. I strongly feel that way. We have to have some kind of youth service and commitment. It can't only be about, that when we celebrate the 50th anniversary of independence, we have fun and games and fetes. It has to be a commitment to this country of Barbados and what Barbados stands for. And we need that kind of development to move us to the next level. If not, we are going to continue to stagnate as we have been doing in the last few years. The fishing sector in Barbados has long been a significant area of local economic activity. And in today's world of steadily rising prices, especially here in Barbados, yesterday we have now seen the increase in taxes, and a social responsibility levy increased 5 times. Other taxes coming on stream, no doubt the cost of living will increase 15%. And in this age where we've had these steadily rising prices, fish continues to provide an effective food, cost-effective food for locals and our tourists alike. And I don't know if we recognize enough the contribution that fishing has made in the past and continues to make to our national development. Most of the people employed in fishing in Barbados are self-employed people. These are not people who are looking for a job. These are not people who are a burden on the government, seeking a government job. And they certainly are not parasites in the bosom of government, as one government senator and a junior minister has ignobly said that the private sector is. The fishing industry is part of the private sector of Barbados and certainly isn't a parasite on the hands of government. And that statement which he made, quite frankly, has to be condemned in the highest order. And he said that he's withdrawn it, and it's not his personal opinion, but it is his personal opinion, because he said straight and clearly that he said it already. He's been criticized for saying it in the past, and he doesn't care, it doesn't bother him, and he will go on to say it, and you can write what he said, and I said so. So it is part of his personal views. I'm not so sure that it isn't part of the views of his government as well, because time and again, government elected members of parliament have condemned the private sector, said that they're not pulling their weight, but yet the government has not given them the environment in which they can prosper. They've continued to increase taxes on the private sector and on the people of Barbados. 40 new taxes instituted by this government since they came into office 9.5 years ago. How can you expect a private sector to operate effectively within that environment? As I said, the fishing industry is part of that private sector. Mainly self-employed people. As I understand it, about 3,000 people in Barbados directly involved in the fishing industry, and another 3,000 odd indirectly involved. As I understand it, there are over 2,000 fishermen in Barbados. There are about 500 fish vendors in Barbados, seasonally employed, yes, in the fishing industry, because of course the fishing industry is to some extent seasonal. As I understand it, there are over 200 people employed as scalers or boners at fish markets in Barbados, and certainly over 100, well over 100 employed at fishing processing plants. Then there are those who are indirectly involved in the fishing industry. Then when you multiply, of course, those who are dependent on those involved in fishing industry, those who are members of households of people involved in fishing industry, you see that there are thousands of people who depend on the fishing industry for a daily livelihood. And this cannot be discounted in this age of economic austerity which we have encountered. Barbados is not known as the land of the flying fish for nothing. That's what we have been known for a long period of time, the unique specimen of fish which we use, of course, locally to a large extent, but which also brings in foreign exchange through its export of the fish and of other fish. I haven't been able to discover up-to-date figures, but I know up to a few years ago the fishing industry contributed 8% of the agricultural gross domestic product to Barbados. And of course, again, agriculture has been a traditional part of Barbados, not now as much as it used to be up to 50 years ago, when Barbados, for instance, reaped 200,000 tons of sugarcane. We're not that agricultural community, but the fact of the matter is that we need food to survive. Food is one of the basic necessities of life. And a contribution of 8% of the gross domestic product in terms of agriculture by the fishing industry, again, is not something to dismiss. And as best as I could discover, fishing itself contributes about 1% to the national gross domestic product. It therefore continues to be a major social and economic asset to our nation, especially, as I said, today, when we're under a lot of economic pressure. In addition to this, of course, eating fish is healthier than eating meat. You know, we Bajans, we love our red meat, we love our chicken, we love our macaroni cheese, and maybe we don't eat enough fish. But the fact remains that too high a percentage of us suffer from diabetes, suffer from high blood pressure, suffer from these non-communicable diseases, which are clearly detrimental to our health, to our future, and costly. I mean, all of these diseases and ailments take millions of dollars out of our national purse to treat on a yearly basis. And the case is strong for us to eat more fish and to eat more healthy food. This is what the fishing industry is about. We know certainly, in discussions I've had with the fisher folk down here since I became parliamentary representative, 4.5 years ago, I know that there are issues in terms of concessions for fuel when they go out into the ocean to catch fish. And clearly there is certainly a case that the same way how the government can give concessions to the big tourist industry and to the big tourist conglomerates, especially those who are not even Barbadian, huge tax concessions, in some cases going on for the next 40 years. There's certainly a case that can be made out and has to be made out for the fishing industry, which, as I said, is so fundamental to the livelihood of so many Barbadians to have tax concessions too. Again, the price of fuel has gone up yesterday, but you don't hear anything about concessions being given on fuel and diesel for fishermen going out to sea. Of course, as parliamentary representative, I have to again raise the issue of what is the future development of the fishing industry in this government's minds for Weston Fish Market. It is perhaps coincidental, but certainly par for the course that we are meeting today opposite and within sight of the fish market here. This fish market here, in fact, this site, Weston, is one of the 6 or 7 major sites for the fishing industry in Barbados, together, of course, with Bridgetown, with Trents Bay, Oistins, Concept Bay, Spikestown. And, what is the future development? About 2-3 years ago, I was invited to a meeting and had a meeting here. I think it was with a United Nations organization, UNDP, believe, if I remember, it was, whereby there were plans to renovate and extend the fish market. We haven't heard, certainly I haven't been told as parliamentary representative, what has become of those plans. That organization was willing to, I believe, grant the Barbados government a few $1 million to extend the fish market. So clearly we could enhance the industry, the fishing industry here, for the betterment of this community, this constituency, this country. But have those plans now been shelved? We haven't heard anything, and quite frankly, I'm disappointed that continuously no government official finds it fit to come to this ceremony. I know that the fisher folk invite them every year, the minister, the permanent secretary, other officials in the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and they don't come. I regard that, quite frankly, as disrespect. Is it that they regard, the government regards St. James North as a seat that, or constituency, that is not worth it because they do not vote for the Democratic Labour Party? If that is the thinking, that is very unfortunate, because There are people, real people, Barbadians, who live in this community who pay taxes like everybody else. And they have to be treated with greater respect. And I really believe that ministry officials should come here like where they go everywhere else. The minister, if you're invited, it should be your duty to come. But year after year, there's no attendance. The question has to be asked, as I said, what is the future of, in the mind of government, of the Western fishing community, of this whole community? Recently, as you all know, the fire station, which is immediately opposite where we are now, has been closed down. They haven't said what is the plan for it. The Attorney General has announced that it will not be repaired, which is unfortunate. The fire station is part of this community, has been part of this community, has served fundamentally as part of the community, not only in terms of responding to fires, but in terms of, as I have been reliably informed, being an avenue whereby the influx of drugs into Barbados from this part of Barbados has been negligible. The presence of firemen here, people in authority, people in uniform, had other positive consequences other than fire response. Prevention of drugs. I don't want to say what will happen now that the firemen are no longer there. I hope that will not mean an increase in drugs, and certainly I will be the first to condemn that if that is the case. But now we are left with a situation where none of the 5 northern parishes in Barbados have a fire station. St. James doesn't have one, St. Peter, St. Lucy, St. Andrew, St. Joseph. And to tell me that you have it, Arch Hall is open back up now, when common sense tells me that a delay of 5-10 minutes in terms of response to a fire can mean loss of not only one life but multiple lives and destruction of property, is really something that I do not buy. And I think that the government has a duty to tell us. Like I said, they don't have to tell me. I only a parliamentary representative. I only an opposition MP who keeps a lot of noise according to them. But they have a duty to tell you, the people of St. James North and the community, what is the future. What are their plans for the future development of this area, including the fish market? Too many rumors are circulating that the fish market will be closed down too, and that some permission, the land will be sold and permission granted for tourist development and all those kind of things. And where information is lacking, rumors fly about and allegations, and the fertile mind spreads. And I'm calling on the government officials to say what are their plans for the development of this area, or the redevelopment of it. If they are planning to sell the Crown land, the government land on which the fish market stands as well, and effectively therefore closing off Weston as a fishing community, especially in light of the fact that we haven't heard anything within recent times in terms of the redevelopment of the fish market, which we were hearing up to 2 years ago. And the government has to serve the people. We know that the term of this government is right now certainly less than 11 months, but still they are the government and they have the authority as of now. And if it is that they plan to close down the fish market too and just develop here as a tourist area, let us know. Let us see, because I certainly believe that if that decision has been made by government, that they need to have a conversation with you, the people of this district and of St. James North. I certainly believe that governance should be by, not only for the people, but by the people as well, and the people have to have a say in terms of their development. As to whether you feel that here should continue as a community, which it has been traditionally, including the fishing, or whether you, the people, would prefer it to be now developed as a tourist industry, whereby you might be prevented now from going down there as you can to have a sea bath, as I hear it now happening up in other places on the south coast, where a sign was recently put up about ownership of property, making it more difficult still again for Barbadians to have access to the beach when there are supposed to be no private beaches in Barbados. But as I said, this afternoon is about those awardees, and I commend them all for their role in the development of the fishing industry, not only of this community, but nationally. And I look forward to continuing to work with you, and I can only encourage you to continue as before and to, in fact, enhance your development and, to the betterment of your family and to your industry and to your country. I thank you.